Hey everyone, today we are sitting back down with Rick Hoegler with Pan American Properties to discuss some tips that Rick has for the owners of apartment buildings here in Southern California on some tips on what they can do with their properties here in 2023 and moving into 2024. So Rick, thanks for sitting down,
Yeah, absolutely.
talking with us and providing your insights.
Sure, absolutely.
So let's kick it off. Like, what are some things, there's so much changing in the industry, what are some things you recommend that owners can do, or what are some of the common things that you see owners maybe not doing that they should be doing?
Yeah, so I think the big issue right now is insurance, right? Everybody's talking about that, what's going on in that market. I think some preventative measures can be taken there to make sure that, you know, when you do go out to renewal, that it's a favorable experience for you. So just a couple tips on that would be, first of all, make sure that you're shopping it, make sure you have a qualified broker that really understands that market segment. I think that's very important because they basically need to tell a story about your asset these days to pitch it to underwriting. So just really make sure that you're aligned with the right people. That would be number one. Number two is that, you know, when you look at some of the things that, you know, insurance carriers are calling out, it's, you know, the Zinsco panels or, you know, stab lock breakers and things of that nature. Do a pre-walk, you know, like really know what you're getting yourself into. Make sure that, you know, hey, if you do have those panels, those panel replacements have gotten pretty cost effective today. So just get them done, you know what I mean? Because you know it's going to be an issue. Every insurance carrier is absolutely inspecting. You know, in years past, it was kind of, well, they may not, right? Now they're walking every property. So they're gonna find you out. They're gonna probably cancel you as soon as they find that out. So let's just get ahead of it and do some of those types of things. You know, if you haven't updated your building, a big one is in the last 20 years, if you haven't updated your plumbing, your roof, etc., the electrical, you know, what's your plan on that? So if you haven't, because some things do last longer than that, you know, plumbing still, you can get a longevity longer than 20 years, sometimes even out of your roofs. So just have a CapEx plan in place that you can, again, tell that story of, hey, this is what we're planning on doing, just to give the insurance carrier a little bit of comfort as to, okay, you know, this is a risk that we want to take.
Okay, that makes sense.
So I think insurance is a big deal. As far as just general management is concerned, you know, I think we all know we're entering into a little bit of an interesting market, you know, with where's everything going? You know, is our rents going up? Are they flattening? Are they softening? You know, what can we expect? So in those types of markets, one of the things that we always do is make sure we get into all of our units, right? At least on an annual basis. So if you're an owner and you haven't been into your units, now better than any time to get in there to make sure that you don't have any kind of liability issues. We always, you know, the M word in the market, right? Like nobody wants to talk about that. But if you get in front of that and make sure that it's handled correctly, that minimizes risk, right? So make sure that your units are in proper condition. Make sure that your sidewalks, you know, trip hazards, just very basic things, but just walk the properties, make sure that they're in the condition that they should be, and that'll hopefully save you some headache, you know, down the road.
That makes sense. And the M word, we don't like to use the M word. We use another M word, mildew. Is mildew okay to say? But no, I agree. So whenever you do annual inspections, do you do it at the beginning of the year, after maybe the rainy season?
Well, so we're actually right now, we're reaching out to all of our residents because the holidays are upon us, and hey, did they check their range to make sure it works? You know what I mean? Sometimes you don't use an oven, but for right now. So just little tips like that. Did you check your smoke detectors, this, that, and the other? It is a partnership. The resident's renting it from you. So we do want to make sure that the resident is holding up their end of the bargain, so to speak. But we try to get in at least once a year. Really doesn't matter what time of year it is. Just that we're doing it regularly. We have seen that, you know, insurance carriers are starting to ask about that. And also if you are ever litigated against, or, you know, a suit is filed, they're going to ask like for documentation of, you know, when did you last inspect? Let me see those forms to really see, do they have a big case here? Or is this something that, hey, this owner's really on it, there's really nothing here, we should probably just, you know, tuck our tail and leave.
Got it.
The other things that, you know, we've been noticing is, you know, as far as renovations are concerned, a lot of renovations still make sense, right? I mean, as much as, people are looking at maybe not, spending as much as they have in the past, there are still certain things that people really are valuing. Washer dryers, as we talked about in our previous meeting, that's just huge. So wherever you can do that, the cost effectiveness of that has come down. So you can certainly look at things of that nature to do. Air conditioning and heating, obviously, going with the ductless units instead of, through the wall unit to where only one room gets, cooled and whatnot. And a lot of these things really don't take a ton of money to do if you have the right people really inspecting it and knowing how to go about doing that. So,
are you seeing a lot of people pull back on their renovations right now, just given the market? Or
I wouldn't say that they're pulling back. I think they're just being more savvy about where they're spending the money.
Makes sense.
So, again, we have insurance, obviously, that's, a concern. So let's make sure we allocate for that. We're supposed to have a big rainy season again, with El Nino and whatnot. So what are we doing to preemptively, repair or do what we need on roofs or whatnot to make sure we're not inviting, more of an issue. So you're seeing a little bit of a shift to that, but there's still, many of our clients are still making sure, because again, it's customer service, right? If this is the biggest check that most anybody ever writes, right, is their rent check. So are they writing that, happily, or are they going, this place, is garbage, or my landlord doesn't take care of me or whatnot? So we really want to make sure that the customer service is there and that, your residents are being attended to. So a lot of questions come our way about on-site manager compensation. And as we know, and hopefully your viewers do, anything that's 16 units or over in the state of California, you need to have a responsible party on site, whether that's a maintenance guy or resident manager or whatever. There's been a lot of question about how to properly compensate a resident manager. And the easiest way to explain it, and again, you guys, call Dan and his team, we gave them a calculator. So if you're ever concerned about that, I'm sure Dan and his team would be more than happy to kind of walk through, what real costs might be, or of course you can always reach out to us. But you've got to give a third of the rent off, right? So if the rent, just for, ease of conversation, if it's $1,000 rent, a third of that has to come off, and that cannot be counted towards their compensation. And a lot of people don't kind of get that. They think that, well, that's should be baked in, and unfortunately, the code does not read that way. So the third has to just be given as a condition of employment that they have to live on site. And then you have to make sure that they meet minimum wage. So if you're asking them to work 20 hours a week, they have to at least be getting paid minimum wage. Resident managers are not salaried, they are hourly employees. I think that's a big differential, unless it's on a very large asset to where they have like higher fire capabilities and things of that nature. So just keep that in mind. I mean, it can get very sticky very quickly. So if you do have a resident manager question or whatnot, again, we're happy to walk you through that. I'm sure Dan and his team would be as well.
What about cutting expenses? What can owners do to?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple strategies there. I think first and foremost is fix it right the first time. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of times, we get, as being a landlord, right? It's like, hey, I'd spend $50 on that, don't spend the $100, right? If you spent the $100, what does that really get you? And I think that's a question that we need to be asking a little bit more. Like, instead of just trying to put a Band-Aid on something, fix it properly. You'll get the longevity out of it. The resident will be appreciative of it. In many cases where rents might be softening, you want to make sure that your residents stay, and are happy with, the place that they live in. So I would say, fix things right. Do you need to use a specialist? A lot of times I get calls about, can you refer me to a plumber or an electrician? Well, do you need a plumber or electrician, or will a generalist be okay? Do you just need a handyman to really do that type of work? So I think you can save some money there too, just being a little bit more savvy about asking some, questions about what really needs to be done. Everybody has technology. Residents are perfectly fine in sending photos of what the issue is so that you can get your eyes on it. So I would encourage that. Again, rubs and utilities, we've talked about that in the past. I think, Most everybody's aware of what that whole program is, but as far as the expense side is concerned, not only are you recapturing that expense, but it also makes people a little bit more conservative, as to, hey, if I have a drippy faucet, I'm going to report it instead of just letting it run, or if somebody's abusing it, or if irrigation's running too long or whatnot. So it's kind of a win-win there, to where we're all in that together to try to conserve and not unnecessarily waste resources and whatnot. So, and then finally, I would say AI. That's a big thing right now. There's a lot of different things coming on the market right now, from leasing, where you can automate some of your leasing process, rent collection, renters insurance monitoring, bill paying. I mean, I'd really encourage your viewers to really start checking into that, because I think that is going to really go fast. I mean, a lot of that is entering the market. Everybody's talking about it. And I think really renters are going to be looking at, hey, do you have something like that or don't you? Do I have to write a check, or can I do everything remotely? Can I do the leasing process at my leisure at night and fill out the paperwork, or do I have to do it in writing, right? And hand deliver things. So I think a lot of that is going to differentiate yourself from, when a renter's looking, like, hey, where is it easiest for me to, rent from? Where is it easiest for me to call home, right? So I think whatever you can do to deploy that would pay off in spades.
It's really good. What's some of your best practices to keep tenants renewing for another lease term?
Yeah, so for years, I don't think that, really anybody's been doing it, because rents have been growing, right? So if the resident, chose not to release, you fix the unit up and you're going to get more. Well, in today's market, we're hoping to get the same, right? In some cases. So for us, we'll send a renewal offer out. We're in many cases not doing the max, unless the rents are extremely below market. We're doing maybe anywhere between 3% and 5%. To keep it palatable for the resident, because everybody's paying more for gas, just like all of us, right? But then the other thing is offering some little freebies, like, hey, we'll wash your windows, or we'll do if they have carpet, we'll do carpet cleaning, or we'll come in and do a professional clean for you, or something of that nature. And that's really a win-win, because it's helping preserve the asset. The resident feels like they're getting something, and ultimately you're saving an incredible amount of money, because you're not having to fully turn the unit and rent loss and all of that other good stuff.
Those are some really good tips. I mean, it's really valuable to get your insight, because a lot of owners, it's a lot, right?
Sure.
It can get pretty consuming depending on how many buildings they own, or how many
Absolutely.
locations they own in, and plus keeping on top of all the legislation stuff, and then on top of just managing, the buildings. Keeping up with deferred maintenance.
Yep.
So it's really good to have your insights. And I think it's really important, if anybody wants to, are they welcome to reach out to
Absolutely.
you and your team to
Anytime.
see if they'd like to talk further offline?
Absolutely.
All right, we'll put your information below. If you want to reach out and talk with Rick and his team, feel free to do so. And I'm sure we'll have you on the channel again, hopefully at another property tour, and talk about more about what you got going on.
Awesome. Thanks.
All right, thanks
Appreciate
again.
it. Yep.
Thanks
absolutely.
for watching.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.